Perfect. So hello, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the SAIMA 14th session, Ask Me Anything. And this is our third episode for Ask Me Anything. And we are back to this session because we have recent CTAs and amazing panel today and amazing set of questions as well from our community. You're free to ask your questions in the chat as well. Let's get started. So we are a group of people who are on our journey to CTA, and it is led by me, Meera, and Lilith, as you all are aware. If you're not aware, we all are on our journey to CTA, and all of us have completed the prerequisites that are required for appearing to the review board. And yeah, you can watch our previous sessions if you are new to this group and get to know more about us. I'll quickly move on to the introduction slides, and we have this amazing panel of recent CTAs, Vinay, Jitendra, and Samir. Vinay comes from an architect background, enterprise Salesforce architect at Canon Europe. He also holds a 16 Salesforce certification. Jitendra, as we all know, is 8 times MVP, also a CTA. He holds 27 certifications and lead architect at IBM currently. And Samir is Chief Technical Architect at PwC and recently became a CTA. I am Neha. I am on my journey to CTA and I hold 16 Salesforce certifications as of now and on my journey to CTA. Over to you, Meera, for your introduction.
Yeah, thank you, Neha. Yeah, I'm also a 16 times certified Salesforce architect and a Salesforce MVP also. Currently working at UST, India. That's about me.
Great. Yeah. Also, I would like our panelists to individually introduce yourself in detail. Over to you, Vinay.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having this great platform to share our experiences. My name is Vinay Sail. I'm recently become a CTA in April. So I work for Canon Europe and I'm leading the enterprise architecture, which is not limited to Salesforce, but my main pivotal role in shaping up the digital transformation and putting the digital strategy in place. Salesforce plus also the other systems that is there in our digital space. And that's me. Jitendra?
Yes, hello everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, as per your time zone. And thank you, Meera and Neha, for inviting me. I'm very honored to be here. So you already introduced to me about me. Other than that, I will say currently my role in IBM North America Salesforce practices. I'm leading a team of technical architect. I'm responsible to make sure I'm nourishing them, enabling them all the new technologies that Salesforce keep releasing, conducting series of meetings there, enablement sessions inside IBM, and helping all my technical architects to be to the next level. That's all.
So I guess I'll go next. So yeah, my name's Sam Wadhwani, and as Meera and Neha introduced, I'm Chief Technical Architect at PwC, leading our Salesforce practice. I predominantly focus on the financial services sector, but I have a co-leader who looks after the private and G&HI, that's government and health industries sector as well. So my background is from a civil background, again, mainly working in financial services, where I spent 5 years before then moving on to Salesforce, and total experience in Salesforce is probably about 12, 13 years at the moment. So yeah, that's basically me.
Thank you. So as I can recollect, everyone in our panelists is not just experienced in Salesforce, they have broad knowledge about the technical landscape around it, and they come from various backgrounds and they're leading their architecture factories inside their organization and helping people around. So people, we have these panelists over here. Let's just ask them anything. Let's get started. And before getting started, I just want to let you all know that we at SAIMA are preparing for our technical architect exam, but we also want to create and share content that will help us to prepare for the certification. So if you have any more ideas on what we could or should do, please let us know. Also, we are not representing Salesforce in any way. So every content that we have is our own personal opinion. And some housekeeping rules, please mute yourself. And if you have any questions or suggestions, please put them on the chat and we'll take them one by one during the session. And we also know that we are not perfect and neither do we know everything. So if you spot any mistake, just let us know. We'll try to improve on that. And if you want to share any knowledge with us, that's always welcome. And if also you're interested in hosting any events in future, just let us know. Just get in touch with me, Lilith, or Mira, and we can organize many more events. So yeah, let's get started with today's session. Over to you, Mira.
Yeah, thank you so much, Neha. And we are really happy to have Jitendra, Vinay, and Sam today with us so that we can hear their wonderful journey towards CTA today. So maybe we can get started with their Salesforce journey till this time. How was it? And especially we would like to hear how they heard about CTA for the first time and what was the reason or motive behind getting started with CTA journey. Maybe we can get started with Vinay first.
Yeah, so I think I am the least Salesforce experience, not only among panelists, but also the participant I see on the right-hand side panel among them. So I just have a Salesforce experience of 4 years. Before that, I was actually the integration architect, and it is just accident that I left into the Salesforce journey. I started the Salesforce journey, and also directly as the architect. I was not aware of anything about the CTA till after starting my journey in a Salesforce. After 6 months, I joined the first Trailhead DX that happened in San Francisco in 2018, and I still remember the room with a full of future CTAs and system boot camp I joined, and at that point of time I was just having a one certification, that is the admin certification. And then the trainer started with asking question, okay, how many certification you have? So I started with the numbering one. I raised my hand, one, yeah. Then that number from 2 it started to 25. So somebody was there in a room with the 25 certification. I said, okay, I'm in the wrong group of people at that point of a time. And I think in that 2 days, I realized, okay, there is something called a CTA. So the one interesting fact I would like to share that when I started that journey, I decided I want to become a CTA. Of course, there are intermediate stop like application and system architect, but I came to know in first 6 months of my Salesforce life that, okay, there is something called a CTA, which I want to achieve eventually. So last 4 years is a lot of learning on a Salesforce and also the business point of a view, also the technical side of the view. And that's where my journey got started. That is the first time I heard that CTA and kind of a thing does exist.
Okay, yeah, good to hear, Vinay. And is there any specific reason because of which you thought like it's good to get into CTA?
I was already doing the architecture role, right? So getting into that thinking power of architect in terms of any technology, you put Salesforce, you put any other technology, it was quite easy for me. That's not a big problem. So why not go for the pinnacle of the Salesforce around that one? So that was the thinking behind the scene. And when you start a journey at the start itself that you want towards CTA, it becomes quite easy to plan the journey accordingly for whatever next 2-3 years around that one and achieve that one. So that was a mindset I came from.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Vinay. Maybe let me move to Jitendra now because he is with the ecosystem for a long time now, like inspiring many others in the platform. So would love to hear from Jitendra also.
Yes, thanks, Meera. And Vinay, a very inspiring story, right? And very different for sure. So my journey, actually, I will go back to my beginning of the career. So I was first J2ME developer. So I was mostly working on the mobile development. Then I moved to J2AA. And at the same, I was a polyglot programmer. So I was working on J2EE, C# .NET technologies all at the same time. And during one of my project, I think in 2008, I was given a task that I have to integrate my system with Salesforce. So that's how I got introduced to the Salesforce. So I never logged into the Salesforce for the 6-7 months, but I started directly using Partner Wisdom. So my journey with the Salesforce started with the integration first. And so after 2008, 6 months I worked in the Salesforce, and I keep working on G2EE till 2012. And then I wanted to change my job. So what happened is, in my resume, I was in India that time. In my resume, I have written one word saying that, okay, I have done integration with Salesforce with partner Wisdom. Trust me, out of 20 offers in 2012, almost 18 to 19 were just Salesforce. So I didn't know what is Salesforce at that time. So I started interviewing, and I failed almost 16 interviews in 2012 because I didn't know Salesforce at all. But during that 4 or 5 months of the time, right, I know what kind of the question company asking, what they are looking for, what is workflow process, not process build at that time, workflow, visual force. So I started learning, doing hands-on on myself, right, and that is how I started writing my blog as well. It was like my workbook. So I learning, I'm sharing at the same time. And then in Cognizant, I got selected, and I told the recruiter that time, hey, I'm a Java developer, but I'm very confident that I would be able to handle the Salesforce. So they gave me a break in 2012. So from 2012 to 2014 to 14 or 15, I got all the Salesforce certification. There only 6 or 7 certification was at that time: Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, Admin, Advanced Admin, Developer. Then I thought, okay, which certification left? So that was a CTA in 2014. And then I was having conversation with few guys what kind of the level the CTA goes. I know that in 2014 I'm ready. No, I'm not ready because I was a developer at that time. So my first CTA attempt that I took was in 2018, and I was extremely overconfident after the board review that, okay, I'm gonna pass, and I failed miserably. Now that time in 2018, I know that the way you handle Salesforce CTA is not like any other exam. It's not about right or wrong question, right? There has to be strategy there. So then I got busy, like all the people, I got busy in my project. Unfortunately, fortunately, you can say COVID-19 hit, and we all started working from home. So now that was my time. I was otherwise before the COVID-19, I was traveling every week to my client location. Now I was saving my time. So I thought, why not to use that time and try again? So then I starting full fledged, I will say 2020 beginning, about February or March. And I appeared again last year, October. I got a partial pass. Then I again did 6-7 months of work, and then I got successful in May this year. And first of all, thanks to most of you who are in the call who helped me in my journey. Sam, Vinay, Charlie, Gaurav, they were all my mock judges, my mock buddy, and they all helped me to where I'm here. So thanks to all of you.
Good to hear that, Jitendra. It was a wonderful journey. Now I know like why you are very much fond about Salesforce integration. So you have started your career with Salesforce integration. Okay. Let me move to Sam now. From your profile, I came to know that you are working as Salesforce architect for a long time, and you have got some other hobbies also apart from technical side. So would love to hear all the details along with your Salesforce journey.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a lifelong IT consultant. I guess is the starting point. So I'm an engineering and computing graduate, first of all, from university, and straight out of university, I knew that I wanted to be an IT consultant, and went to work for a very small company for about 5 years, consulting in Siebel, which most of you will probably have heard of and possibly even worked with as well. And after in those 5 years, I sort of developed from not knowing Siebel very much at all to becoming an architect. At that point in my career, I changed jobs, and with the change in jobs became there was this new technology on the block that was really not. It was at the bottom of its development curve, maturity curve. But it was cloud-based. There was no overheads in terms of maintaining infrastructure and hosting and all that sort of stuff. All the pain points that you had to endure when you were dealing with Siebel on premise and so on, you didn't have to bother with. So you could just focus on actually building and delivering value to clients. So I moved jobs at that point, and moved to another consultancy, a small consultancy, which we built up from just being 3 people, myself being the technical representative, to being a team of about 25, 30. And sort of switched to Salesforce, learning Salesforce initially just from a development and administration perspective, but applying a lot of the architectural principles that I'd learned through the career in sales in Siebel, to the point where I was after about 4 or 5 years, I was operating as an architect again, but with the Salesforce technology. And I remember having some relatively deep technical conversations with other enterprise architects at the client I was working with, plus Salesforce architects at the same time. And someone mentioned the CTA, and I said, yeah, I know about it. I've been thinking about it. I said, well, you're doing the job already. You'll be fine to go ahead, and go for it. So I had a conversation with my employer, and we decided that actually this would be a good thing to embark on. And so I did, outside all the client work, taking a lot of sort of personal time to try and study for it. And this was back in 2015 when I took the board and failed. I took the board after traveling 8 hours to San Francisco from the UK, and staying overnight, then taking the board, then flying back the same day, and on the plane back feeling like that was a bad idea. And so I got my results and thought, right, okay, what do I do now? So as a regroup, and at that time, the program was very different. The ecosystem and the community was very, very different, far from what it is today in terms of resources and support networks and so on. I decided that I'd take another shot at it the following year, but arguably, I don't think I'd prepared sufficiently and so on, and took it and failed again. From there on, it's been a strong focus on client work. It's not been specifically or deliberately not going for the CTA review board, but it's just been time-wise, schedule wise, being unable to balance them out. And that's a key part to anybody's CTA journey, is actually being able to balance your normal day-to-day work against the study time, against your personal life, against many other commitments and forces that are potentially conflicting against each other. In any case, I started again probably December 2019, that really started in anger with the Flow Republic program, coaching program in 2020, very early on. And that's when I met Vinay, who was my study partner. And we've sort of spent 2020 pretty much on every other day, at least once a week, working together to study together on our individual CTA journeys, to the point where I passed in April this year.
Okay, thank you, Sam. It was good to hear. I think it was a long journey for you, which started from 2015, I think. So it was nice to hear. And can you share some more details about how was the preparation? Like I heard you saying like you joined Flow Republic at the end for the preparation, and it was a combined study. So like how study partner helps basically throughout the program. Mm-hmm. And is it mandatory to have a study partner or a mentor always? What is your thought about that?
The short answer is yes. So with the amount of information you've got to digest, the amount of topics that you have to study, there's a lot of information that you need to gather, and a large part of the your preparation is understanding it in a way that you can apply it to the scenario. It's great having the knowledge, but if you don't have the experience or you haven't actually been exposed to applying those principles and applying that knowledge, it becomes very, very difficult. Now, a very strong part of that is being able to talk to other people about it, being able to test your ideas, being able to test your approaches and your decision making. And a study partner is the first port of call for that. Someone you can discuss some of the technicalities with, someone you can share your understanding with, and really understand from their perspective how they've understood it as well. Because we're all different. We all sort of interpret the facts in a different way. Certainly, we all make decisions in a different way and apply them to requirements and use cases in a different way as well. So you absolutely need a network around you whereby you can sort of explain your understanding and have that sort of sounding board that here's the way I thought about it. Is that the same as yours? And with a different perspective comes the challenge of, okay, well, what about this and what about that? Or actually, there's this part that you may not have considered. All of those conversations accelerate your understanding and your ability to apply those concepts to the use cases. In terms of a mentor, either a mentor or a coach is essential. And the reason for that is someone who understands what it takes, someone who understands where your weaknesses are, so that they can guide and sort of highlight those to you so that you can focus on the highest priority areas. You'll get some of that from community groups, you'll get some of that from your study partner, but someone who is able to look at your end-to-end approach, not just from the presentation side of things or your mocks or whatever that you're doing there, but also how you're preparing, actually looking at the amount of time that you spend on the knowledge versus the mocks versus the language and practicing your communication skills as well is essential. They'll be able to help you with that, whereas everybody's on their own individual journeys and can't afford that time.
Okay, yeah, good to hear. And Jitendra, what is your take about that? Like a mentor and a study partner, how that helped in your journey?
Yes, so I will go back on the 2018 when I failed. That time I was preparing alone. Okay, and one thing that I learned from that is consistency is the key. You cannot just study for 2 months and 3 months and you think that okay you would be able to crack it. So I agree to Sam, the study buddy is very important. Okay, and study buddy is someone who can match your consistency, because we all have a personal life, we all have a professional life. It is very easy to say, hey, let's skip today's meeting, we will meet next time. Now your study buddy has to be there, who has to say, hey, just meet 15 minutes or 30 minutes, right? You need to have someone who is always pushing you to the edge. Alone, this is a long journey, right? And in order to be a consistent, you definitely need one study buddy. And in my case, I had Varuna. So like Sam, I think started almost same time, January 2020. Sam, I think started December 2019. And the whole year we studied together. And of course, in our journey, we met a lot of awesome people, like we met Johan, we met Sergey, right? Everybody helped us. So that is very important. You need to have a study partner. And another thing is, it's good to have a study partner who is a completely opposite to you. So for an example, I was completely technical. If I can get a solution study partner, right, that would be very help to all both of us. So one is strong in technical, one is strong in solutioning, and that marry between the concept would be awesome, right? So what we did, we were fortunately in the same time zone, so we met almost every day. Okay, 1 hour, just discuss something, do hands-on, see something new we got in the scenario or something. Another important thing, I agree to Sam as well, you need to have a mentor. And mentor in sense, someone who is already CTA. There's so many awesome architects there are so many awesome enterprise architects there who are not CTA. Unfortunately, the format of the exam is completely different. You have a pressure from time management. Within a 3 hour, you have to solve the scenario. You have a pressure of 45-minute presentation. You have a pressure on Q&A, right? How to handle the Q&A, right? What to speak, what not to speak, right? Those kind of the things only the mentor can help you. Now in your organization, if you already have a CTM mentor, go ahead, see if they can give you some time. Otherwise, like Sam, I was also the part of Flow Republic program, and Seb was awesome. So one thing about the Flow Republic program is Seb will never give you an answer. No magic bullet there. He will tell you, go figure it out. He will tell you the pointers that, hey, Jitendra, you are lagging here. You're so much technical. I don't want to hear that. I mean, that was the most common comment I always got from Seb. Why you're talking about Apex? Why you're talking about Trigger? Tell me the user journey, walk me through the whole experience, right? And he will not tell me the right answer. So it's up to me now, figure it out. My first one-on-one go down, second go down, third go down. But over the period of time, I got hang of it. Okay, what he wants to hear from me. So he literally doesn't give an answer. He asks you to train yourself, right? So yeah, that is the one program definitely helped me. And so in terms of the study buddy, right, I had Varuna. I met 2 3 months, I think, with Vinay, Vibhu, Johan, Yakub. And then we got another friend, because now when I get a retake, now my section retakes were two. Now the preparation for the full exam and the preparation for two retake is completely different game. Then I had to search for new study buddy who is in the same boat like me, right? Then I got partner with Ram. I got partner with Varuna, was already my partner. Then I got partner with Mo also. Now that was very interesting. We all four were completely different time zone: UK, Australia, and US. There's only 1 hour in 24 hour that we could have meet. Okay, so that was very challenging, but still we met like every day, almost 4 months. So yes, study buddy is extremely important, and mentor is very important.
Oh, it's really good to hear, Jitendra. Like even from Johan, I have heard the same. Like, it's always good to build a team where people are from different level of experience, so that you will be able to make use of all the study partners. Okay. Now I would like to hear from Vinay also on how the journey was for you.
Yeah, it's actually when I started around January 2019. I also started with the Flow Republic, and incidentally, I met Sam because the Sam was not my first accountability partner, because in Flow Republic we have a concept called accountability partner to with kind of a study buddy for you. And I got someone from US. He didn't turn up actually for 1 or 2 months, and then Sam was also there actually looking for another study buddy. That's how actually I accidentally met Sam, and we started meeting on every weekend to discuss all the study materials and everything around that one. So study buddy is very, very important. So I myself started with Johan, Jakob, and as well as Vibu, who is also from Australia. The same time zone challenge that Jitendra faced, because Australia is almost at the end of the day for those folks actually, for Vibu to start being a part of the study group. But we used to meet almost every day at a 7 o'clock in the morning, okay, Monday to Friday. And I think we did it almost 9 months continuously around that one. And by in that process, Johan finished, Jakob became a CTA around that one. But I think that every day spending 1 hour and looking at the same problem in all different angle was very, very crucial, because some guys are technical, some guys are quite business centric, some guys looking the problem from a different point of view. So getting those all those points to solve that particular problem is very, very important. And also when you're doing a mocks, that's very important, where you need to have a different set of people who can judge you on a technical front, on a business front, on any other different fronts from the communications and all those kind of stuff. So having a different diverse portfolio of the people to judge your mocks, it is also very, very important. And you have always a different set of groups in which you are presenting that one, so that everybody can give their opinion. Coming back on a mentor, same stuff, what Jitendra mentioned, Sebastian is a fantastic teacher. Okay, that's the first starting point on that one. And he always pushing you hard, because he always think that, okay, you have more things to achieve in your journey around that. But most important thing I would like to talk about, okay, I was very sad, okay, when I became a CTA. The reason is that my everyday meetings, okay, with all those nice people got stopped. So I want to give one message to everyone. Okay, doesn't matter actually, mentors and other people. It's journey that is very important. okay, where you learn a lot around that one. Everybody knows the destination. That's not a big problem on that one. But the main question for you is that when somebody is preparing for a CTA, are you enjoying a journey or not? With your mentor, with your all other different study partners, buddy, with you are working on that one. If you are not enjoying, means something is wrong. Okay. If you are enjoying, it means you will not do laziness on waking up in the 7 o'clock in the morning, because I gave a word to Johan, I will be there at the 7 o'clock, means I need to be there, no excuse around that one. So that kind of a motivation goes into that one. And the more you sweat, the more you will lose your blood in the war. That's the way I look at it over there. So I think that's very important, that you start enjoying the journey. If you enjoy, you will definitely succeed. Nobody's there to stop you.
Okay, so Vinay, when you are getting started, when you get started with your journey, you might need to first identify your weak areas first, right? So how have you identified those, whether it was through the mock interviews or you identified it by yourself? I don't know how it was.
Yeah, first of all, when I joined Flow Republic, okay, Sebastian does the first mock, okay, with a kind of a mini scenario, and he already spot you that what are the weakness in you. But of course, you can also judge based upon the exam guidelines. Okay, where are you are lacking? For example, you might be lacking in identity. That's a very common section where people are lacking around that one. So you need to study a little bit more around that one. And then the point here is that it is not about identification is important, but the most important thing is that somebody providing you inputs how to improve those particular areas around that one. Okay, so that's where you started the journey. You map in an Excel sheet. Okay, these are the points. Okay, based upon that weakness, I need to study a lot around that one. Identity, integration patterns, for example, or LDV mitigations, policies, and all those kind of stuff. So you need to make an inventory. So what I used to do, the make of inventory in an Excel sheet. These are the study points which I need to do in my time where I want to just study over there. So that is ultimate guide for me, and also taking a notes of that one so that I can refer it back. So if I'm reading a 50 pages document, I have a note of 1 or 2 pages of that one, so that I don't need to go back to that 50 pages document. I can just read that 2 pages document, which might be closing to the CTA journey. I can make use of that one. So that's one of the way to look at it over there. Another important thing is that when you are also doing mocks in study groups, you have a lot of people. So sometimes in one of these solution, if you are putting some nonsense solution, they're guiding you actually that, okay, no, this is not the right one. Actually, they are making a point in a Q&A round. So at that moment, you are writing a point. This is something I need to read a lot, right? Because this is I'm actually having a problem. I was not able to explain the CTA telephone integration, how that works, or how the document management solution works. So you write down, you come back, you study, you play with that app exchange, possibly around that one, or you just play with that anything in a Salesforce. And that's the way you improve your knowledge day by day. And if you ask me, till now, I still have 100 bookmarks, which I need to still read it for a CTA, which I haven't read it. so just to give a, just because of the CTA is so much actually to read around that one, I might have read 400, but still 100, I still have it in a Chrome at the bookmark. So that's the intensity and gravity actually. You always feel before you know CTA review board that you're still not there, but that's always feeling is there for you.
Okay, that was good to hear. So how it was for you, Sam? Like, how did you identify your weak areas and how did you work on that?
By failing, by getting it wrong. I'm not joking. So the everything that Vinay said there was what we practiced every day. Whether it was independently or during the study partner sessions, we would. I would also say that asking yourself questions as well as asking each other questions is one of the easiest ways to identify whether you know something well enough or not. So, for example, when we would be studying a topic, I remember Vinay asking me, okay, tell me about this part, and I would pause for a minute, try and remember, because I've got a really bad memory, try and remember what I had already read. And if I hadn't remembered it, I would try and think of how, from a conceptual perspective of what I do understand, how could I answer this question? Ultimately, neither of those were sufficient. And what it'd end up with is me trying to explain something I didn't really know. But that highlighted that that's an area I need to focus on. It's an area that I need to then study more. And it's a gap in my knowledge, or it's a gap in the way I've understood it. And the more of that you do, the more that you will identify and the more that you will add to your list. So initially, what it feels like is that you end up with a small set of areas that you well, I wouldn't say small, it's probably a moderate list of areas that you know you need to study more on, and you'll study those. But as you go through those, it sort of explodes, and increases more, because you keep on adding more and more topics onto the end. As you study with more people, you identify more. As you go into study group conversations, someone might say, this is my understanding of it, and you think, oh, I didn't realize that part, so I'll add that to my list. So in the initial months, it increases quite significantly, but then as you tackle those ones, they start to reduce, and it becomes more about those unique situations in a mock scenario where you are going through Q&A, and it's you've been challenged on a particular decision or a consideration or a justification that you think, actually, I need to make sure that I'm clear on why I'm choosing this particular feature, or why I'm choosing this particular license or pattern rather than another. It's less about the knowledge at that point. But I would say, when you're going through the study material, ask yourself questions that will help you to identify. When you're studying with your partner, ask each other questions, because if you don't have someone challenging you, like Jitendra said and Vinay said, you won't be able to identify those areas. And equally in the mocks, when you start doing mocks, take those areas where you struggle to answer as a sort of a red flag or a white flag, to say, okay, there's an area that you need to brush up on, so that when you come to the actual review board, they can ask you anything and you'll feel confident about answering.
Okay, I think there's a follow-up question for you, Sam. Is there any tip for people who have very bad memory?
Oh gosh, yes. Actually, yes. You caught me on the hop there. I wasn't sure what to say, but no, there are absolutely. So, so a good way of so limits was always a difficulty for me, because they're facts. So flashcards are a really good way of sort of remembering those. There's a tool called Anki that I used, which was recommended to me from another person who passed their CTA, where it helps you to catalog those flashcards. But more than that, it also randomizes the flashcards and gives you like a set number that you can change. That every time you open up the application and choose a particular deck of questions that you want to go through, like security or integration or whatever it is, they'll just flash them up randomly. But there may be 20 that you do in that session, and once you've done them, you've done them. You can come back and do them at another time, or the next day. What it will do is it will prompt you to sort of grade. Did you feel confident about answering that question? Did you answer it within a time limit? Did you answer it within a longer time limit? And it will repeat those depending on how confident you said you felt about it. So that's a very good tool, and I did that every day on limits. Every day for half an hour, I would just repeat those random questions, and it would prompt me based on how confident I felt about the answer, or whether I got it right within the time limit. So that's one. The other one is try and explain it to a child. I've got two young boys, and I remember explaining, I think it was an integration to him, And I had to make it so concise and so simple that even he could understand it. That was one way I did it. I explained OAuth flows to my wife, and she's a project manager. So just by practicing that sort of stuff, I mean, they hated me for it, and they just wanted me to shut up. But it really really helped, to be able to communicate more effectively and concisely a solution, but also remember it.
Yeah, I agree with you because I used to do that. I normally practice with my kids only. Okay. Yeah, Jitendra. So what about you? Like how did you identify your weak areas?
Sure. So one thing I know, right? If you cannot measure, you cannot success, right? So before starting my program, I had my back. I knew that there are 20 to 30 topics that I don't know at all, and I was very confused. What tool should I use? Right? Should I use an Excel sheet? But really, I hate Excel sheet. Okay, because it's not mobile friendly. Because most of the time, I'm always in with mobile. Eventually, I settled with Trello board. So on the Trello board, I had each card for all the weaknesses. So 20, 30 weakness I had. Then I did my first mock. And in that first mock, I will tell you around 60 to 70% questions I was not able to answer. And none of the question was technical. Okay. The question were more likely defend your solution, right? Why you are using, let's say, trigger, why not the flow, etc. Right? So over a period of time, that 20, 30 cards became almost 100, cards, right? All my weakness, all my area. And then what I did is I started attacking on those cards. So what I did is on my Trello board, I had a month like January 2020, February 2020, and any card that I hit and that I'm successfully able to study and everything, I will move those cards to those columns. Now, after 4 or 5 months, I can literally see my history. Oh, in the last 4 months, what is my progress? Did I study more on January or did I study more in February? Why I did not study more in the March? So it was kind of the giving pressure to myself, right? Okay, some month I'm pretty good, some month I'm not good. So Trello board definitely helped me. Coming to the bad memory part, like Sam, I think I also don't have a good memory. Okay, and how I handle that is, and I started doing hands-on first of all, right? As much as possible. Hands-on of, for example, territory management, payment gateway, PayPal integration. I did all those hands-on, and doing the hands-on, I recorded myself. I recorded in my native language, right? Not in English, because I know that I'm not going to share with that public, right? That is for myself. I recorded it and I kept those recording. Another thing what I did is I started creating a tree map, mind map diagrams. So for example, I have a mind map diagram for sales Einstein. Let's say example, Einstein and important words, right, that I have to hit: service cloud, omni channel, how to set up the omni channels, right? Those kind of the mind maps I created myself. And I also started using the Quizlet. So like governor limits, there's so many governor limits to remember. So I had 6, 7 Quizlet with me. And if I go in my backyard, if I'm sitting idle, or even before going to the sleep, every night I will just swap those Quizlet. Okay. I'm not trying to remember anything. I'm trying to create my muscle memory. Right. So I just did that. I started using the Quizlet every night. And over the period of time, I think after 2 or 3 months, you ask me even in my dream that, okay, what are the governor limits? I would be able to tell you. That's how I address my bad memory problem.
Okay, that is a good thing. And we have received this question from many in the community actually. Do you really need to have a development background to prepare for CTA?
Okay.
Or
Yeah, I will try to answer that one. So personally, I'm speaking my experience, right? Being a developer background dragged me for 2 years. Trust me. If you have a developer background, it's not good. Okay, because the first thing you will always start doing is, oh, I will use trigger, I will use LWC, right? Which is the completely no in CTA. The first priority in the CTA exam is out of the box. Second, config. Third, app exchange. Background comes fourth, last. If you start answering those LWC trigger questions, and then you have to be on your luck. So I will say, in short answer, you need to have the breadth of the knowledge, not depth of the knowledge, right? You need to, of course, know what is trigger, but you don't need to know how to write the trigger. You need to know what is LWC, how LWC work. You don't need to know about its syntax. You don't need to know about, okay, there is a meta XML file, CSS file. Nobody's going to ask you that question. So in short, no, you don't need to have a technical background.
Yeah, a follow-up question, Jitendra. You said like you need to know like the configuration, what is the out-of-the-box solution we have, and then App Exchange product. So which one App Exchange products we need to know while we are preparing for CTA? Is there any list or how you can, yeah?
I will say there is not really a list, okay, but I do know few of the App Exchange product that I will always keep in my mind. So first of all, digital signature, App Exchange product for that, document generation. One very important App Exchange product, but normally we ignore, is in Salesforce out of the box without CPQ, opportunity don't get converted to orders. So there is a very nice App Exchange product from the Salesforce lab. So that is on my list. Other than that, you need to know payment gateway solutions, right? And you need to know advanced approval processes. You would need to know some App Exchange product which does record assignment on the basis of round robin or some different criteria, right? I think these are the top App Exchange products you would need to know. But again, this is, don't go by that list, right? And don't try to memorize it, right? Do lots of mock, and during the mock, have someone challenge you, and then you would know that where, and try to challenge yourself. How can I avoid writing a code? That's the most important part in your preparation. Can you solve the scenario without writing the code? Is there any App Exchange product? And again, if you are saying that, okay, I'm going to use App Exchange XYZ, just don't throw out the name. You really need to know, does that App Exchange, like form assembly, do you know really the capabilities of the form assembly? Can you pause? Can you resume it? Can form assembly works for unauthenticated user? Again, you don't need to try it, but at least you need to know the capabilities. Because if you just throw out the wrong App Exchange product or inappropriate App Exchange product in front of judges, right, they will catch you. So you really need to know your product that you are suggesting.
Okay, yeah, got it. That is a good lot of information, Jitendra. So, Sam, what is your opinion about people from not technical background preparing for CTA? Any tips for them?
Mindset. The mindset is key. So as an architect, they rarely just look at one domain area when trying to solve a problem. They're considering the security, they're considering the performance, they're considering the business change, the maintenance of it, the how it's going to be governed, things like that. That is a mindset change. So those from a technical perspective might, like exactly what Jitendra said, is that it's not always about the coding from a developer perspective. Think about or at least try and think about, okay, well, I'm going to build this, but what does that mean to the IT support team? What does that mean to a risk or compliance team? What does that mean to the CEO? What does it mean to the cleaner? That it's never just one particular area. So, and by doing that, you will change the way you look at a problem, so that it's not just technically focused. Okay, that's what I would say.
Okay, and what is your opinion, Vinay, on that?
You asked me this exam called Certified Technical Architect, but that's not true. That's the first thing, okay? It's actually you need to know the business acumen, okay? And even if you are coming from a developer background, okay, I was actually talking internally the same line, actually thoughts, which I'd like to share with you guys. Even if you are a developer, you need to ask to your architect or whoever you ask you to write a code, why I'm writing that single line of code. What is actually it is benefiting to the whoever actually asks you to build that particular capability. And as a developer, if you do not have that answer, it means either your architect or project manager is doing something wrong, because they also should know that answer, by the way. So it's all about business capability. When you talk about a digital transformation or digital strategy, it's all about digital capability that enabling a business to do a business and to also get a more revenue and all those kind of stuffs. So when you talk about the certified technical architect, okay, that technical word is kind of a different actually in this context. The main thing is that when you get a scenario, 8 pager or 10 pager, are you able to find out the capabilities, the business capabilities that you want to give it to that particular business by which they can be more successful? Now once you get those particular business capabilities, how we are mapping that business capability to the technical building blocks. And when I say technical building blocks, it could be a flow, it could be app exchange product, it could be out of box territory management, for an example, it could be a CTA telephony solution in an app exchange. Then you map it. But the main question is that most of the part knows, people knows very well the technical solution. I have a CTA, I have a DocuGen, I have a territory management, we have that skill-based routing. But first question is that do we know that, did you identify that business capability that we want to give it to the business? So if you know that one, then it's very easy to map. And that's where actually the point I'm making, even a developer writing a single line of code, either in a Apex or LWC, why I'm writing that code, what is benefiting to the business in a bigger context point of view. If they know it, then they can understand why I'm writing that particular code. So for me, for any particular scenario, even for a project, the first thing I considered about the business capability, and business capability can be in an iterative way, not in everything in a one go, and map that with respect to your technical capabilities, which is also come in an iterative way. That's where you do the agile way of working and everything comes later on that one with a minimum technical depth around that one. So for me, that word, that certified technical architect, is kind of a fuzzy. It's not about a technical stuff. It's about mapping those particular technical skills to those particular business capabilities.
Okay, yeah, good to hear. So, while you're preparing, right, in addition to understanding the core platform features, how in-depth knowledge you need to have on other Salesforce products? Like Jitendra mentioned, we have CPQ, Marketing Cloud, so many other new industry clouds. So, how much in-depth knowledge you need to have in all other this cloud?
It's a very good question. The way the Salesforce is acquiring each and every product, it makes life difficult, especially the people who are preparing for CTA in future. Okay,
True.
anything can come in. Yeah, but you need to be very logical. Okay, let give me the example, the marketing. Okay, on this particular context, which I just explained few minutes back. When you talk about your marketing strategy, if you know in your business capability, what is the marketing capability that you need? Are you going to send out mass email to the millions of people? You know the Salesforce platform might not be the right for that one. So you require additional product, Marketing Cloud. The few things with respect to the any app exchange or any other such kind of a product that you need to know. That's my view on that one. How that particular app exchange product get connected to the Salesforce platform. Okay, with respect to the identity or exchange of data, some few protocols that been used, right? OAuth, the one of the main example mentioned by Jitendra is about form assembly, for an example. So how that works, okay, in terms of a connectivity, which data gets shared around that one. That's the one part from the app exchange point of view you need to know. If you talk about CPQ and field service, what you need to know, at least bare minimum, a data model about all those particular products over there. Okay, you need to know. And again, coming back to the previous statement which I made, which is the business capability for which you are mapping that particular CPQ and field service. For an example, in a CPQ, we have that code templates, code, everything around that one, okay, product features and all that. But if your scenario does require only subset of requirement of that particular CPQ, then it's up to you. Do you want to justify to use a CPQ, or can you do that, solve that problem, or can you provide a business capability with some additional customization within a Salesforce, but not having that particular CPQ product that might be overkill in that particular scenario. So the bare minimum when you're studying for a field service and CPQ, I would strongly suggest to understand the capability of that particular CPQ and field service. And when you identify in a scenario, do have those particular capabilities a one-to-one match around that one, and how many capabilities are matching around that one. The more and more capability matching, it means you are going closer to the CPQ and field service on that one. That's the one important. So I'm always concentrating on the capabilities, not even talking about what are the triggers and flow that we have it and all those kind of stuff around that one. So data model is important. Then which are the features that we have it in that particular product itself? That's very important. There are some nice data models on internet. I think from Audit 99, if I'm not wrong on that one. So just go through that one. That is very important to understand. Do some trailers around that one. Have a basic understanding around that one. And you need to have a justification. If I'm using a CPQ or field service, why I should use CPQ or field service or why I should not use that one. Okay, just make sure that your brain is clear on a left or right hand side. And I think that's the way of, at least I did the study, and also Jitendra with and also with Sam and other different people, actually study guides, study people. I think I work on that whole matrix. Okay, we used to have a lot of, not fight but debate around that one. Why this particular scenario is a CPQ scenario, and can we deal with this particular scenario without CPQ, for an example, just to challenge yourself. Okay, and then actually if any scenario that you get it in a board, you can justify from a both side of the way. If suppose the judges are playing with you, then you have a depth of knowledge to explain that one. So I think that level of information is enough actually to get it into the CTA review board.
Okay. Okay. Sam, do you have a different opinion about that, or do you agree with what Vinay just mentioned?
No, I agree. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, in terms of, app exchange packages, that's absolutely right. Clouds wise, because I saw that question in the chat. So sales service, as you'd normally expect, would be expected. It depends what you're proposing. If you're proposing field service or CPQ, you'd better know those products. Same thing with Marketing Cloud, Pardot. I mean, this is a question that gets asked repeatedly and and over again, because people are concerned about the amount of breadth that you actually need to have covered in your experience, and whether it be through implementation or design. E-commerce is the only one that I know that is equivocally not in the syllabus, but all the others are open for you to propose, but not necessarily. Open for you to propose, but if you do propose it, you ought to know how it works. What's the data model? What does the security? How does the security work? How does it integrate with the core platform? What are the best use cases for it? Justify why you're using it over and above a standard other feature. And so on. So it's a principle that you must know those products as well. I would say things like financial services cloud, consumer goods, loyalty, and so on. Those verticals are less required, but they are typical use cases that come up in scenario after scenario after scenario. So you still need to know the use cases. You still need to be able to match the features to the technology choices and the features, the clouds, the licenses to those use cases, and make sure that you're choosing the right tool for the capability.
Okay. So Jitendra, during the interview, actual review board, right? Since we are talking about all these different tools, have you faced a situation where during the review, you realize that you can actually change your current design with a different tool or a different approach? Have you faced such kind of situation, and how you are able to handle that?
Yeah, definitely. There would be situation, right, where let's say some few things could have been done by the CPQ, right? Just an example. One thing I will say is don't bring elephant in a room. If you are bringing something like CPQ field service, right, to Sam's point, you really need to know that product very well. One thing that what I did is I know how the CPQ works, I know how field service works. And in fact, in my initial days, when I was preparing, when I was doing the mock, I would normally go and I will use those products, right? The problem is, are your judges asking you the tough question, your mock judges, right? Over the period of time, like Vinay said, right? I also started doing the same thing. I will solve same scenario multiple ways, with product, without product, right? So coming back to your question, Mira, right? Yes, it happened with me, and I bounced that question, okay, by giving my justification that why I'm not bringing that elephant in the room, right? Why I'm not bringing CPQ. So there could be situations like that. Your justification has to be strong, your perspective, right? So like the one line can be completely interpreted in completely different way by different candidates, right? We doing the mock, right? I understood that line completely different. let's say judges understood completely different. It is your chance to share your perspective. Now, one thing is, and I learned that from the 671, the most important thing is assumptions are your friend. Take a right assumption. Okay, take the right assumption and say, I assume this, and because of XYZ, I'm thinking my solution is the right solution. Okay, and then give the justification, right? That why you're not bringing something, for example, CPQ, one justification, it's a huge product, right? Do you have so many requirement about like product rule, price rule, let's say the billing, right? Your quote line editors, right? There might be just one or two lines somewhere here and there about pricing and the discounting, right? So you really need to have a proper justification. Another thing that I have seen is so many, and again, journey, like Vinay said, is very important. If I have could pass in the last October, maybe this thing I may have not learned. My retake was development life cycle. I consider myself very good in CI/CD pipeline. I have implemented tons of projects, but then after failing that, what I understood is that section is not really just CI/CD pipeline. That section is all about your project management, right? So
Okay.
one of the impact of the CPQ and FSL is again on your project management. That's a special skill set. Your team has to learn it. That's a project risk. So combine assumptions, combine the impact on the actual project implementation, make a strong argument and defense that why your suboptimal solution is the best solution. I would rather go with custom solution. I would rather go LWC, and I will have a strong defense on my mindset that why I chose that and why I did not choose any App Exchange product. And again, like Sam said, if you're going with any App Exchange product, you really need to understand the licensing impact, security impact, right? What's going to happen if the sandbox gets refreshed? Because one of the problem with any App Exchange product is you refresh the sandbox, then you have to set up all the data, all the configurations again. What is the impact on the pipeline, right? So yes, you get a question, okay, during the presentation, during the Q&A, you might feel in your heart somewhere, you know that CPQ is the right product, but you have to defend your solution, that why you did not went with that solution.
Yeah, got it. Yeah. And Sam, how about you? How did you handle that situation?
Um, hmm. Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with Jitendra actually. The challenge is that you know, not only would you have to think about is this the right choice, but also be able to defend it as well. So I don't disagree with Jitendra in all matter of fact.
Okay. Vinay, I have a different question for you actually. So how, I know I can talk to people for hours from now, but because of the timeline, I think I need to restrict, I need to hand it over to Neha also for the next session. So probably a final question to all of you, like how did the CTA journey help you in your career? Like after CTA, how do you feel? Like what advantages that bring to your life?
Okay, it's very interesting question. First of all, when you learning path of CTA, you tend to learn what you might have been learning for 5 years. So you're compressing your career, the 5 years of learning experience into the 1 year. Okay, but it's a great boost, right? Because then you know that this is something that inside you can achieve it in a 1 year. So think about what are the other things in your life you can do it if you keep the same kind of a mental health of learning on a fast speed. Okay, so for an example, it is not only about the CTA stuff, but if you want to go for learning any new stuff, okay, learning piano, learning anything on that one. So you always have a brain to train at an optimum level. That of course I did my CTA in whatever actually 1 or 2 years. Okay, it is very quite difficult journey. But if I want to learn any other new technology, frankly speaking, my whole eyes and ear open up to adopt any new technology, and I can go through the same hassle I went through the whole CTA journey around that one. So that's very important actually. So I'm really motivated to do and learning any new stuffs with a fast pace. That's very important. So that's something I got it after CTA. And the main important thing after CTA actually is the one of the best thing that I got it is actually nice friends like a Sam, Jitendra, and Johan and all other buddies, okay? And that is actually the gift of CTA, that you are preparing so much with them and they are a lifelong friends, that you get whole community around that one. And it's very, very important to have such kind of a community in touch, because if sometimes when you have some problems or they might have some problems, we talk on different forums, okay? Those are the enterprise level solutions and all that. So it's somebody's there actually to also help you actually in future. It is not limited to the CTA around that one. So that's very, very important. Of course, recognitions and everything that comes in, but the sense of achievement, that's very important actually. And that motivate you in whatever the next venture I might have. I know that I did it in the past, but also I can do it in the future. So that most important thing for me actually to carry forward after CTA.
Okay, yeah, thank you so much, Vinay. And Sam, I would like to hear your view also.
Yeah, so I actually wrote a blog post. I think I published it yesterday about conscious decision making. So what I'm explaining there is that you really, whenever you embark on a challenge or a journey such as the CTA journey, there's a lot of sacrifice. There's a lot of challenge to it. I've heard many times before that it's the peak of the pyramid, and that's why I want to achieve it. Okay, that's each to their own. If that's what's driving them, that's what's motivating them, that's fine. But bear in mind that CTA is not a destination. Okay, it's a journey, and it continues after the credential is achieved. You never stop, and I'm sure Jitendra, Vinay, Johan, many other CTAs will also say that the skills they learned whilst they were studying for the CTA board, and even the experience that they went through during the board, are skills that they continue to use even afterwards. They also take the way they learn throughout that journey beyond the CTA board, and they still, as Vinay said, 100 tabs open, all about articles that we still need to learn and we still want to understand more about. So the journey doesn't stop. Yes, there may be motivations that you have personally, but my advice is not to treat it like a destination. That it's actually simply a milestone beyond which you're going to work, because you've got far more that will challenge you beyond just the CTA journey. So yeah, that's my advice.
Okay, thank you, Sam. And Jitendra, what about you? Like the CTA journey, has it helped you or changed your perspective towards how you are approaching a business problem?
Yes, definitely. I could see change in myself after just 6 or 7 months, right? I'm seeing the chat also that how much CTA would bring money in US, etc., right? So to be honest, right, just getting the CTA would not give you that advantage, right? And like Sam and like Vinay said, it's not the destination. It's all about journeys. In the last two year, what I have learned is how to handle the conflict, how to talk to the client, right? How to put my perspective, right? And there is always the situation, right? There is always some constraint that, and I have to live within that constraint. I got a credibility, right? So those are all the advantages I will say about this journey. And also now, after doing so much hard work, now we have trained our mind, right, how to solve something like that impossible. So in the future, let's say we are going for something, let's say Silonas, right, or any other certification or any other product, right? I think the way we studied, that is definitely going to help, because we know what worked for me, and I will just keep the same format for my all other big learnings. Most important thing after the life for the CTA, I will say I have two small kids, and this is my time to give time to my family.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, good to hear that. Let me quickly check if we have something pending on the chat that is not yet answered. Neha, is there anything specific that we need to ask? I think most of the questions.
And if there is any
I
question
remember.
left, right, you all feel free to reach out to Twitter, LinkedIn, right? We all are available there, right? And we will be free, happy to answer all the questions, whatever left.
Yeah, that's the essence about the community. That's what is the great thing that I find so good about Salesforce community, that we have so many people to help, and we have all these community events, and everyone is so helping. And I would personally like to thank all the panelists today for this amazing session, their journey, and we got to know about how you prepared, how you failed, how you came up, how you memorized everything, and how important it is to not be afraid of not knowing anything. And speaking of which, not knowing everything and dreading things, the main section of the exam is Q&A section, and which most of us dread about, right? So we thought about organizing a small and mini mock Q&A session for you today. And I would be asking 4 questions each to you, Jitendra, Sam, and Vinay, so that to give a feel about how Q&A goes in the actual exam. We could not, give a scenario, because in real exam, we all know that you'll be asked to justify your solution, to talk about the scenario or solution that you presented. But to give a little bit feel about it, we have prepared a set of questions that you can answer. I'll ask 4 questions to each of you. And once you answer it, we'll have a little bit of time so you can explain us, why did you answer that? What was going in back of your mind while you were answering that? And how much should I answer? How much I should not answer to the question? Like you said, Jitendra, do not invite the elephant in the room. So what should I say? What should I not say? And let's get started. Whom should I start with? Should I start with you, Jitendra?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. So the first question, I'll ask the 4 questions in like rapid fire, and then you can tell me what were you thinking while you were answering. Okay. So the first question is, can you please walk through about the file management strategy?
Sure. So the document management strategy is one of the important. So my thought process behind the scene, right? That should I use a Salesforce file, or should I use some App Exchange product? In App Exchange product, if I have to go, I will go to the box. But the decision making is going to be something like that. What is the total file size? Is it a less than 2 GB or greater than 2 GB? If it is less than 2 GB, my vote goes to the file. Now, do I need to upload the file from Salesforce mobile app, right? What is the size? Because Salesforce mobile app only supports 100 MB, right? I cannot use a Salesforce file in that case. Then I have to go to the App Exchange product, because App Exchange product supports the Salesforce file, right? Now, how many users I have in my org? Each user gets 2 GB of the storage. So on the basis of, let's say there is a requirement saying 100 MB of file would be uploaded, let's say for each opportunity, and I have a millions of opportunity, Salesforce file again is not right solution. So should I go for outside? Now, when I go outside, there are again 2 options. Should I go with the box, App Exchange, or should I go with the File Connect? Now, my decision on the File Connect versus some App Exchange product is File Connect only allows me reading the file, right? So is there any requirement to write the file? If there is a requirement to write the file, again, I will not go with the File Connect. I will go with the some App Exchange product like box. So there's so many things that will involve the document strategy. So Salesforce file versus App Exchange, and then there is another third option, File Connect. So these are all things that goes in my mind, right? That what solution I'm going to speak, and whatever solution I will speak, I will certainly use a word. I did consider Salesforce file, but for example, I have XYZ number of user, total file storage is, I have 3 terabytes, but on the basis of the requirement, I need to store 9 terabytes of the storage. I don't have that much information. So I'm going with the external file, something like box.
So you do need to mention that, okay, I did consider that solution, but that was not something that is suitable for the current scenario. So I'm going with this.
And
this
that
is very important to explain.
Exactly. That word, consideration, that justification, like I said, you have to defend. Simply saying I will go with the box is not going to work. Then justice will keep asking you a question. Why you do not go with the Salesforce file? So try to answer within 30 seconds, and try to answer in such a way that you're giving a justification so that judges don't follow. Because see, Q&A is not about answering the right question. Q&A is in 45 minutes. It's just a video game, point gaining system. Tin, 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 you are getting the points, right? You waste your time, and that's a problem for you, right? I have seen so many candidates say, oh, my Q&A was awesome, 45 minutes I answered everything. No, 45 minutes, did you answer fast enough? It is possible the judges have 20 more questions, but not enough time.
Yeah. And what if you don't know the answer to the question? How often you're allowed to pass the question?
Feel free to say pass. That is the most important thing, right? Don't bluff. If you're bluffing, you are wasting your time, and that's not a professionalism, because the three CTA judges sitting in front of you, they're very talented, very experienced, and they know when you are bluffing. You cannot speak something and wasting your time, right? That's negative point, I will say. I did pass few questions in my CTA. Passing the question does not mean you failed. It just shows the professionalism, right? And show the human. As a human, you don't know everything, and that's okay.
Absolutely. Right. Moving on to the next question, Jitendra. How will you ensure performance during the LDB migration?
So this is more like a data migration question, right? So
Yeah.
in the data migration, definitely we have so many options, right? We have our data loader, etc., right? Then I will consider somewhere in the scenario anywhere, did they consider they have a problem with a duplicate customer? Is it considering that, okay, I'm going to do the data migration from the systems like ERP, etc.? If that is happening, I would certainly go with some ETL tool. And then I will explain that what is my process. I'm going to go the data cleansing process. I'm going to go deduplication process. I'm going to stage the data somewhere, right? And I will, after the staging that data, I will upload in the full copy sandbox, and I will see the performance. Is it taking 4 days, 5 days? If yes, it's not going to work for me. Now, what are the options to improve it? Should I enable parallel bulk load? Should I disable all the sharing? Should I enable the defer sharing rule, right? Should I disable all the trigger or workflow, right? All those things that I have to take. So the answer here is, you will do all these experiment in full copy sandbox. You will get to feel that how much time that LDB data migration is going to take, and then you will learn from all those testing and everything, and then you will apply in the production. Now you have to be very careful here. There is somewhere in the development life cycle, somewhere in the system landscape, that may say that they can have a system down only for 1 day out. Now if the data load is taking 5 days, you cannot load in a 1 day. What would you do? Then you will load the data in advance, and then you will do the delta load in that 1 day, right? So these are some of the strategies that you will go through the LDB migration.
Right. It's important, like you all said, it's important to understand the flow of the data and the scenarios according to your system landscape. Another point to learn.
Somewhere it is worth mentioning that, okay, there is a data loader also, but for the data loader you need to have a CSV file ready, right? Which is not working in our case, and that is the reason you're going with ETL. Just saying the word ETL is not going to, again, consider justification is important in your presentation and in your Q&A.
Right. Moving on to the next question. Why would you use ESB, and what are its benefits?
Yeah, that's a very good question, right? So first of all, I would try to have a spaghetti kind of the integration. It's never integration between the two systems. It's never integration between just Salesforce and the ESB, right? In the ETL, Salesforce and SAP ERP system, right? So as a best practice, and also Salesforce is not a very good tool for the transformation, right? Salesforce is very good in the making HTTPS JSON, right? So avoid all the transformation, avoid the reusability, avoid the maintainability and accountability. Salesforce is not integration platform. If you just use a Salesforce, no ESB, who is going to handle the error mechanism? Who is going to retry? Who is going to give me the error log? So to get all those complexity outside the Salesforce, I will bring middleware, and that can be MuleSoft, that can be Boomi, that can be Informatica. Okay, my preference would be MuleSoft because it has a native connector, native capability, right? And I will use a Salesforce for its purpose, and the purpose of Salesforce to help business processes getting the more value from the system. Salesforce is not for the integration. So that would be my justification going for ESB.
Yeah, so it's better to know about the capability of the system and purpose of what you are doing.
Definitely. The good thing about the MuleSoft, it takes 5 minutes to get the trial version of the MuleSoft 30-day trial. Go and do hands-on. Okay. And MuleSoft is also all drag and drop, like Flow. Cloudhub.com, go there, create 30-day trial. Out of the box connectors are there. You will love it. MuleSoft is very easy to learn and very easy to get hands-on as an ESB.
So I guess we have 39 people in the call, and those all who are watching the recording, go sign up to MuleSoft, Cloud Hub, and do the hands-on.
Yes, you don't need
Yeah.
any coding background.
Yeah. All right, next question. So I think you already answered the strategy in one of the questions, but I'll anyway ask, how will you handle data duplication during the data migration?
So like Lilith said, Vinay said, there are so many questions where you don't need technical answer. So right answer here, I will say, I will not take the responsibility of the data duplication. I will ask, get the data stewardship team in your governance. That person will decide and give me the rule. What is the data duplication? How do you know the customer data is duplicate? Is it a name? Is it a email? Is it a website? You give me the role. Data stewardship set up all the compliances and all the rule, and I will have my ETL developer to follow the deduplication process. That would be the answer. No technical answer here. It's a project governance answer.
Brilliant. Right. You don't own that thing as a correct.
That's right.
Yeah. So all we got to know from you, Jitendra, was to mention the considerations while you are answering any questions, that why you did consider the specific thing and why that other thing was not considered, and the purpose of what you have done, and purpose of what you've been asked to do, and how you did what you did. It's very important to communicate it. Yeah.
Exactly, Neha, exactly.
Well,
and that shows the breadth of, that shows how much information you have. And that shows behind the scene as an enterprise architect, as a certified technical architect, you did consider it, right? And why you're not suggesting that.
Makes sense. Moving on to Sam. My first question to you is, can you talk about the identity strategy?
Yes, absolutely. So with identity, the first question that you've got to ask yourself is, who needs access to the platform initially, and where is their identity mastered? Which system masters their identity? The third consideration there that starts off the sort of design thinking is, do they already have a system in place that that masters identity, and for which users does it master that identity? So typically what we see in scenarios is that for the majority of cases, internal employees end up with their identity mastered in an existing system, because Salesforce is being introduced into a technical landscape, whereby there are lots of other technologies in the landscape that already have need authentication and so on. So typically what we see is that it's either mastered in an ERP system, or actually more commonly that the scenario actually calls out that there's an identity store such as Active Directory or LDAP or something like that. It's also worth remembering the difference between an identity store and an identity provider. The identity store is simply mastering the identity and uniquely identifying that user, as well as to a degree, perhaps the demographics or the permissions that they have. The identity provider is a system that's actually used to integrate those applications that those users need access to, but by authenticating the users against that identity store to make sure that they exist and they're identified. Okay, so first of all, identify where those identities are stored. Which users are those, and what do they need access to? Okay, it could be that they need access to Salesforce and that they are internal employees. It could be that they also need access to the ERP system. Does the ERP system have the capability to use an identity provider to authenticate that those users against the identity store? Yeah, is the identity store itself is there an identity provider that supports the identity store? LDAP is a great example of a situation where typically you can have applications that refer to an LDAP directory in order to authenticate a user. But is there an identity provider that connects to Salesforce to allow those users to access Salesforce using LDAP? Typically, no. You would need a third-party product such as Okta, Ping, something like that to bring in. But in that example, if you're using Okta or Ping, how does it connect to LDAP? How does it connect to Active Directory? It needs an on-premise agent or some form that's within the network and within the firewall to be able to connect to that LDAP store. Same thing with Active Directory. Do the users need to be automatically provisioned and deprovisioned? Does your identity technology support those automation capabilities? Typically a third-party product would do that, such as the ones I talked about. So there's multiple different angles that you need to look at the problem from. The other side of it is that absolutely the Salesforce authentication mechanism is absolutely a valid authentication mechanism. So let's say you've got customers who are accessing your platform. If they don't need to authenticate through OpenID Connect or a social authentication provider, they can absolutely authenticate with the Salesforce platform directly. That's a valid solution. But then how do they get access to other systems as a result of that? Do they need access to those other systems? Can that data be brought into Salesforce so that they can access the data without needing access to those additional systems? So you can sort of shortcut the identity challenge for end customers or external users by looking at how they can access services, functions, or data through another platform that they can get access to a lot easier.
Basically, yeah, it makes sense. It boils down to whether you already have what you need existing already. You need to look at the current landscape.
Yes.
And whether the identity stores or providers are already there, and then whether they support what we need to build on, or whether we need to introduce a third-party application.
Yeah. I guess the third part is, do they really need to access the system itself to be able to access the function, or is it just the data that they need access to, which you can provide in a different way?
Right. All right. Moving on to the next question, Sam, what would be the reporting strategy that you would suggest?
Sure. So in almost every scenario and potentially client use case that you've got, there will be an element of operational reporting. Operational reporting meaning, what records are created, what status are they in, how many are in that status, who's looking after it. So it relates to how the data is being handled by your internal teams, or what's been created or submitted by end customers. So operational reporting is a classic case of typically using the standard Salesforce reports and dashboards capabilities, mainly because they tend to be quite simple and the metrics tend to be from straightforward sources that are easily accessible. Okay, so standard Salesforce reports and dashboards can provide that capability very easily. The volume of data is a consideration, however. So the standard reports features and dashboard features are limited in the volume of data they can report on. And that needs to be a consideration as to whether that's going to satisfy the need. So if you've got an LDV situation, chances are operational reports in using the standard Salesforce features are not going to fit unless you can filter that data down, or you can summarize it in a way that still fits within the limits. Okay. The other aspect that you need to consider here is the number of sources of data that you need to produce that report. So if it's billing data from the ERP system and customer data and order data from the Salesforce platform, chances are you're going to need another third-party tool unless you can bring the billing data into Salesforce itself, which is unlikely without having some form of LDV situation. So you're going to need another third-party tool. Do they already have a reporting tool or a BI tool that they use, like Power BI or whatever? is the data from an LDV perspective archived off to a data warehouse? So does that form part of the data source that needs to feed into the reports? Chances are, though, you're going to need another tool such as Tableau CRM to combine the data sources and provide more analytical reporting capabilities.
All right. So basically, we need to think from a point of view who needs to see what and what amount of data and where the data is coming from.
Exactly.
And need to decide on.
Yeah.
Makes sense. The last question for you, Sam, would be when will you use personal accounts instead of business accounts?
This should be quite a simple one. So anywhere you're modeling individuals, so end customers who are individuals rather than companies. Okay, there are patterns out there which you could use to justify using personal accounts for other reasons, but generally, as an initial working assumption to start off with, it's if you are dealing with individuals who do not work at companies that you want to model, then use person accounts. There are some limitations around using person accounts, for example, account role optimization and some of the other complex sharing mechanisms that don't support person accounts that you need to be careful of, though.
So how much answer should one give when this sort of questions get asked in Q&A? Like, should it be a one-word answer? Should it be scenario-based? Or should it be consideration-wise?
So you've got to justify why you're choosing that feature, so person accounts, and what they actually represent. So in this example, it's an individual. You may also, well, you should also actually articulate what else you considered and what the impacts of either that choice or the choice you're proposing have on another aspect of the requirements, but you must always tie it back to the requirements. Okay, so that's where I would probably stop. I'm choosing this because of this particular requirement. I also considered X, Y, Z, but that didn't fit the need because of ABC. That's a good sort of mantra in terms of answering Q&A questions, but keep it short.
Keeping it short is the key.
Yep.
Right. Right. I think that was not the last one. The last one is the one that I'm going to ask. So how will you make sure the payment gateway is secure?
Okay. Is that one for me?
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. So with the payment gateway, there's two different ways you can go. There's the hosted route and there's the non-hosted route. With the hosted route, what that means is you're going to effectively redirect the customer or the user to a payment page that is hosted by the vendor of the payment gateway. So in that regard, you've got to keep the data secure as you're passing it over to the payment gateway. Typically, it's through a URL redirection. So you want to use HTTPS, so TLS one way, to make sure that that handshake is secured and can't be intercepted. The non-hosted payment option generally tends to involve the APIs. So there you can use a two-way SSL capability. So that's typically the way you would do it.
All right, that was a very short answer and makes sense. Like the flow was perfect. The two options that you would consider.
Yeah.
Got it. So now we know how much do we have to answer and to a question that can be something that can go in a broader sense, but we don't have to. We just have to answer
Correct.
it in a way that, yeah.
In Q&A, answer the question. That is the thing to remember. Answer the question that they've asked and answer it specifically. But if they want more detail, they will ask another question to elicit that more detail. Otherwise, you will burn time on providing details that they haven't asked for.
That's a wonderful tip. Yeah. Moving on to you, Vinay. First question is, can you talk about your mobile strategy?
Yeah, so let me do one thing for answering this question. Let me assume a scenario that the company is well-branded company, and they are having a business that work on a mobile itself. Okay, so the mobile affinity is the topmost for them, and without mobile, they are not able to do business. Okay, let's set up some context around that one, and let me try to answer that one after a long time and after CTA review word. Okay, so if that's the scenario, so that's the setting. So to solve this problem, okay, the company branding is based upon the particular mobile app. So performance and stability of that particular mobile app is very optimum. So to support this one, I will go with a native mobile app because I can have the specific branding with respect to this particular company, and also I can support the mobile app stabilizations and scalability. I can take care of that one. Although I have considered the standard mobile app, but we have a limited sort of branding that we can do around that one, and that may not actually achieve the branding experience that this company would like to have it around that one. Okay, so I have also considered mobile publisher. That is also another aspect comes in for a community users. Okay, I have also considered that one, but still we have the same problem with a mobile standard app that we are not able to have the optimized branding experience around that one. And also the number of users that we are looking to serve is very quite high. And if you have that native mobile app on Heroku on some other platform, it's actually the scalability and also the performance of that particular application is very, very high. I have also considered the hybrid mobile app. So it means so it means we'll also have the variation of that particular mobile app, but we are looking for a top-notch branding because without this top-notch branding, we are not they are not able to do the business around that one. So I think these are the few high-level consideration comes in. Okay, but you also can go the other way around of the scenario where all the capabilities can be done with a standard mobile app. Then you are justifying the other way around. The cost of the native mobile is very high. Okay, you need to have parallel development streams around that one. The governance required to also have that particular mobile technology need to be developed next to that one, and you also need to consider the cost associated around that one. Okay, so that's a completely other way around that you go that all the requirement in the scenario it's satisfied with the standard mobile app or mobile publisher around that one. So I think I just try to weigh the side from a both, okay, where you have to go for a native mobile app and where you can go with a standard mobile app. Of course, there is an in-between way where you can go with a hybrid mobile app where you see that the same capability, we also have Android users, you also have an iOS user, then Android, the hybrid app is actually does make sense around that one. So I think I've just tried to provide a both side of the coin, okay, the extreme side, then what are the justification, and one more important thing which I would like to talk about the business capability. Here business in this particular scenario is purely depending upon that particular app. They will lose money if suppose that app is not available or if it is not scalable in future around that one. So they are banking on that one. So it means they need to have an optimum, and also the user should able to easily download and use that particular app. That's where the native app comes in very much in a picture around that one. So this is kind of a trade-off on both sides. I just tried to provide around that one.
Yeah, that's a great answer. So you are saying that it is important to know the capabilities around the different kind of solutions like hybrid, native, standard, whether to use mobile publisher or everything, right? And me as a person, when I'm going through my CTA journey, I always used to get confused because there were so many common capabilities between all of them. So which one to choose? So you answered it rightly, like choose about the cost, choose, consider about the cost, consider about the scalability, the governance that will help you to choose the right answer. And also, since your scenario was focusing on branding, so go for the solution, right
Yeah.
solution that will accept the branding, right?
Yeah, so it's
So
all depend upon a business what they want to achieve. It is not about the technical solution. It's all about the business. Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah.
yeah. Thank you so much. Next question would be justify using CPQ or FS in your solution.
Okay, so I will again go for an example, the scenario is for this one. So consider the scenario talks about you have products, but also you have bundles around that one. Okay, consider that is the scenario. So my answer would be considering that this particular business requirement requires extension of the product, like a product options and product features, which can be done with a couple of standard custom objects within a cell post and some automations on top of that one. So we can actually deliver this kind of a business requirement by having those two custom objects. I have also considered the cell post CPQ, but Salesforce CPQ will be overkill because this particular Salesforce CPQ also provides the billing and other code template related capabilities, which is not required for this particular scenario as such. And also implementing that particular CPQ and whole governance around that one, it will also attract a cost as well as the project management, which might not required for this particular scenario as such. That's why I am defending to have this couple of custom object and a few automations around that one so that we can work out this particular solution.
That totally makes sense. So if your complete scenario or one of the business scenarios completely mapping towards a CPQ solution, then only we should suggest it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, bringing in a small solution, small piece of solution makes total sense in terms of cost, time, etc.
Yeah.
Right. Moving on quickly as we are on top of the hour. Can you talk about email marketing strategy?
Yeah, so that's a very interesting question actually. Let me go in a different way for this question. So for external email communication, we have 5,000 emails per day limitations that we have it in a Salesforce. So you need to consider what kind of a contact it is. If it is a community user, no problem. You can send email. Of course, we have a higher limit, but we might not touch to that one. But if you are just sending the emails to the external user who is not a portal user, you have limitations around that one. So consider in your scenario, do you have any requirement where we have a journey builder kind of a capability that required from the marketing cloud where you need to have push notification need to be done. Okay, the reminders need to be sent continuously around that kind of stuff. So, okay, so that's where the whole marketing cloud implementation that comes in a picture. Okay. But if you just have a requirement to send the emails, okay, the mass emails, you can also consider App Exchange product, but the marketing cloud is closed. The reason is that because if you need to scale up any other capability in the marketing area in future, you can scale up with the marketing cloud. And also we have out of box marketing cloud connector that you get it, which also you can connect to the sales and service cloud. So it makes life easy for you from implementation point of view. So my justification around that using this whole marketing cloud, that mass email communication and also ability in future to scale up to the different extent where you can have a multiple journey can be combined together. So that marketing cloud platform.
So and it again boils down to what exactly your business needs and what might they actually need after scaling and choose the capability accordingly.
Yeah, but if you think the marketing cloud is
Right.
not the right platform because you're just using for just one use case, then it might not be the right solution. You might also think about some App Exchange products, okay, which also can does the mass emailing around that one.
Yeah, and one should also know about the limits. Again, the flashcards. So memory. Yeah. Last question to you, Vinay. Can you justify the community license selection in this scenario? Like, how do you justify? Yeah.
Yeah, so I think the one of the favorite page among all who are preparing for CTA or who are already in a CTA is that one page from the Salesforce documentation which talks about all the objects and all the capabilities of the licenses. Please by heart that page somehow. Okay, I don't know how with a Quizlet or Anki or something else, but just by heart that page. But it's all about the common sense as well. Actually, when I say common sense, it's about the business capability that you are trying to provide. So you need to know how the B2B business works, how the B2C business works. So in a B2B business, we have two segments. One is the partner and one is the customer segment. So if suppose partner is just ordering your products, it means you might not require a partner community for an example, because you are not dealing with opportunity, you are not dealing with the leads, you are not dealing with the campaigns around that one. Consider a scenario where you have a customers who are just ordering, so the customer community is enough for that one. Suppose you have a super user or those kind of a mechanisms, then you need to have the reporting requirements and all that, then customer community comes in a picture around that one. So I think these are the whole one page of that whole documentation from a Salesforce. It's just kind of a Bible for to decide where to go. But also there are a few aspects of the community that you also need to think about. For an example, the approval process, how it works in each type of the licenses around that one. So something need to think about that one. Which are the objects that you can expose in the community? How many maximum custom objects? That's the 10 custom object that you expose into the community around that one. So something you need to think about that one. But again, coming back to the same business angle, which I always try to put around that one, what that external users are going to do on that community. If you have an answer from business capability point of view, then you can map that to the objects in a Salesforce that you want to map. okay, like opportunity quote and all those kind of stuff. And that gives you answer that which kind of licenses that you need to have it. Okay, you can't just go and start, okay, from a technical point of view, let me start with a partner, then I will reduce that to the customer community. It doesn't work like that one. It's all about what they want to do in that system. That's very important around that one. So I think that one documentation page, it's quite Bible to understand everything nitty-gritty around the licenses charging on a community.
If I could add to that,
Absolutely.
the
Yeah.
I've seen before that people choose to use custom objects to get around a licensing issue. Just remember that what you're looking for is the optimal license choice, the optimal solution, using as much of the native capabilities as possible. So if they need access to something like opportunities and they've got a customer community license, creating a custom object that represents an opportunity is not the right way to go.
Yeah.
Not an optimal way to go.
Yeah, and also you will have a difficult time in a CTA review board to justify. That's a different case altogether. You might drag for 10, 15, or might be half an hour on that one. So the main point Sam is making over here is actually don't try to fit the answers which is not comfortable for you in terms of a justification, and also make sure that you also respect the self-post limitation or a self-post contract and the way the licenses have been tailored for such kind of objects that we have it in a self-post ecosystem. They have it their own purpose. So partner community, why you call it as a partner community? Because you can actually share the leads. You can also run the campaigns along with the partners. You can also have the opportunity sharings and all those kind of stuffs where the end customer can help partners to win that particular opportunity. Okay, that's the business case around that one. For customers, they can able to see the cases. They can also able to order the products, okay, which is already pre formatted agreements possibly around that one. So they just go and order the products around that one in the B2B as well as in the B2C context kind of stuff. So you need to understand the business portfolio before you go and just apply the licenses. That's very important.
Makes sense. Total sense. So you need to know the business capability, what is the existing current system, and how are you going to leverage your solution and merge it into the current solution and provide an app solution, and what all considerations you made, what all solutions are there in the market, and choose the best one.
Yeah.
Is what I collect from all three of you. Yeah. So anything, Meera, that you want to cover, because our audience is not stopping. Our audience wants to have another 2-hour session, similar session. So yes, SAIMA can come back with similar session in future. We're gonna save this chart and send it across to all our attendees. Anything else, Meera, we need to cover? 5 more sessions, yay.
Yeah, people are asking for more time and more sessions. Yeah, this was really interesting. And we are really thankful to Jitendra Zaa and Vinay for spending time with the community people. And anything that you would like to share with everyone? Last, any advice, one piece of advice?
Yeah.
Jitendra?
Yeah, if you ask me the single advice, right, if you really want to crack the CTA, is consistency. Okay, if you see the cricket, I will just give you two names, Sehwag versus Sachin. What is the difference between those two players? Okay, and you know the answer. If you really want to crack the CTA, you have to be Sachin. You have to be consistent. That's all I can say.
Yes. Yeah, thank you so much, Jitendra.
Yeah, so my advice would be that there are no shortcuts. Hard work is is the only way. Okay, there are no shortcuts. There's no formula to apply. I hear a lot of what do I need to say? What do I need to learn? How much? And those things are they're valid questions and they're concerns because it is broad and it is deep. There's a lot to get through and it's overwhelming as well. It is hard to do, and the journey is not without its challenges. So balance the challenge with time to take out time to sort of relax and do the things that sort of de-stress. Otherwise, you will find it difficult. And be honest with yourself. Again, I wrote an article about this because I found it difficult. The concept of failure, the sort of doubt, the self-doubt that you go through. It's all natural and a part of the journey. So it's important to look after yourself as well as working hard.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much, Sam. And Vinay?
I think Jitendra and Sam already covered. If I want to say next to that, what they covered is just to have a common sense. And in the world, the common sense is not so common. Okay, that's a fact of life. So have a common sense means if you go in a supermarket or if you go anywhere, think about how it works. Okay, if you know how it works and if you have a thinking process behind the scene, for an example, in a supermarket, the products are there in a shelf, but they're arranged in a such a way, but there is a logic behind the scene why they arrange like that one, because the most common pick product is actually in front of your eye level. Okay, and the other nonsense products are at the top or bottom of the section of the shelf. Okay, point I'm making over here is that have a common sense and understand how things works. Okay, either it's a scientific or either it's a normal stuffs around that one, around whatever you do, and do have a lot of observations. If you know, do that one, it become easy to apply it also in a scenario. For an example, partners need to have opportunity. One of the example around that one, of course, partner works on opportunity around that one. Okay, then I should not have the customer community licenses. Okay, just a normal thing around that one. So I think having a common sense, it's quite interesting. Then you can generalize that problem quite easily and you can get hold of that problem.
Okay, sure. Yeah, thank you so much. Neha, anything else that you would like to add, or you're on mute?
I was on mute again. I would like to ask everyone to enable their cameras so that we can take a group picture. It gives a good feeling that, yeah, we are virtual, but yeah, we can still take a picture, right? All right. One more. No, this is not working. Perfect. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
for
you very
sharing.
much.
Okay, thank you
Thank
so much,
you.
everyone, for
Bye-bye.
taking your time on a Friday.
Bye.
Thank you all. Bye.
Have a good
nice
weekend,
weekend ahead.
everyone. Bye.
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 Thank you.